Hey Brian, how are you, buddy?
Hey Jose, how you doing?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy
Welcome to
Friday.
episode 2 of the EpiUsers podcast. What did you think about the little launch we did last week?
Well, we made it to episode 2, so it must have gone really well.
Yeah, I know. I thought people thought it was interesting and cool and a cool idea, and we've had some people watch it and provide some positive feedback. So,
Yeah,
and hopefully today we don't have to record it twice.
that would be wonderful. Imagine how bad the first take was.
Oh my. So what are we talking about this week?
This week we got some updates. There's an acquisition that Epicor announced. We can talk through some of that. We have an exciting guest this week. We can get to that as well.
Yes.
And anything else that you had on your list of things to talk through?
No, we had quite a few suggestions for the podcast name. I was talking to Josh yesterday, and he goes, "Buddy, I really don't want to go through a rebrand again. There's so many images and logos we got to do." So I think it's probably going to stay at least for a little while as the Epi Users podcast. We appreciate all the suggestions; they were pretty funny to look at, but we've gone through like 3 different rebrands of just logos and images, and we had, Hasso made some really cool custom logo for us and some imaging for us, and we really appreciate. Obviously, the community stepped up immediately and started helping out, so that's been pretty cool. Um, but it is a lot of work to rebrand every. I mean, we are on like 6 or 8 different platforms, and you have to go to each one and upload special size images and custom logos. So it's a bit of a pain, I gotta be honest. So we may just stick with this name for a little bit longer. Uh, but keep those suggestions coming, and if something sparks joy, we might convince Josh to take the plunge and go with it.
Yeah, we should try and give him a mug, and then maybe he'll
There
maybe.
you. I think he already has a mug. Didn't
Yeah, he
help.
got a mug somehow. So if anybody has any ideas for the show, don't be shy. We have our guest. We're looking for extra guests, and we'll get more of that at the end of the show. But we do want to talk about the acquisition that Epicor made this week with Data Interchange, EDI company out of based in Europe, big player in the automotive industry. Epicor over the last few years has really tried to improve not just the EDI software, but also the onboarding of customers. I've gone through this with them in the past. We're going through this now as well. We're working with their newer solution since they acquired one EDI source with their HQX software, and how easy that is to use and transform data and do some of those mappings. So we're working through that new software now. That's new to us, anyway, and leveraging the relationships that Data Interchange has with the automotive industry in Europe and the U.S. That should enable not just the automotive industry, but anyone else who's looking to get set up with EDI. It's a difficult process in the beginning. I've gone through it. Once you go through that learning curve, EDI is really not that difficult, and it's really automates your customer interactions. Jose, do you have a chance to catch up on any of that? You have any insight on?
Yeah, I took a look at the announcement and read a couple of articles they put out there. I don't have any inside baseball, but it does look like a good acquisition. It looks like a much bigger team than Epicor has had before, particularly with the EDI process. It's a mature product, and they have a lot of relationships already, like you said, in the automotive industry, which Epicor has for quite a while now, been inching closer and closer to kind of getting more and more into that automotive industry. My buddy Christian, you've met him a few times at Insights. His company, the Parts House, is all about automotives, and they use Epicor, right? And they use Vision, which is another Epicor product that's specifically geared for automotive. So I know that an acquisition like this will be impactful to them. And it would be nice to bring in a much bigger, much diverse, multinational team that has vast knowledge throughout the industry, really for EDI. I know we're starting our own EDI implementations at Stephen Gould, so we're looking forward to that, and hopefully this turns into something even better than what the offerings are today. So it's an exciting acquisition for sure.
Yeah, and it certainly helps Epicor get into that market space with tier 2, tier 1 level automotive suppliers with their EDI requirements, because automotive does it's EDI is required for all that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
hopefully
makes
that
sense.
helps. We're always looking for a bigger customer base and new ideas and new improvements to the software. So if this
And
helps
let's
bring
face
that
it,
along.
EDI, even modern EDI is a dinosaur, right? So
Right.
it's time to get that up to the standards of 2022, right? So, low code, no code mappings and all sorts of fun stuff. So hopefully we see some improvements out of that directly built into the Epicor ecosystem. Because even Epicor itself has offered EDI for a ton of, forever, right? But
Sure.
it was driven via, RDD, report data definitions, and then you printed out an EDI file and then processed it, right? That was kind of a clumsy way of doing that for a while. And then they brought in Service Connect as the interface to do that when they went to Epicor 10. And then eventually they built their own process. And now with, HQX and the EDI one source and now this acquisition, they just keep making strides in that aspect. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, Speaking of things to keep an eye on, we have an interview now with somebody that I think is gonna be pretty interesting. So, Brian, I think that we better let our guest in. I think in a second here we're going to be hearing from Epicor's own Tim Shoemaker. I believe he's been at Epicor for how long now? 22 years and
So
counting, almost 23
something
years.
like that. Yes. Tim's been
So,
there quite a
welcome,
while.
Tim.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Glad to see you. Thank you for agreeing to be our first guest on this adventure here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I feel it an honor to be able to participate in something as the first guest. So,
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. You doing all right? How was the post-conference adjustment?
for me, post conference was fine. I did not come back with any friends or
Oh, that's
illnesses
good.
or anything like some other people did. But I was able to come back and continue work. It was kind of funny. It got real quiet for a day or two because several people were out, but then it's been crazy busy the last let's see, last 3 or 4 days. It's been just over the top crazy busy.
Yeah, I bet. So, Tim, you're a senior principal product manager at Epicor now for a little while, but you've been there for about 20, almost 23 years, right?
It'll be 23 years in August, on August 10th.
That's incredible. So, tell us a little bit about how you got started into this crazy roller coaster.
Well, I started out first. I thought I was a computer programmer for many years. That's what I called myself. I started out. I started my own company actually many years ago, and then I went to work for a small manufacturing company in a little town called Romoland, California. Nobody's heard of Romoland, but we made transformers, and they hired me to computerize the company and assigned me to an office. There's my office, there's your desk, there's a box that has a terminal in it. We don't know how to hook it up. That's your first job. So that was how it got started. And from there, 18 years, about 16 years later, I had built out a complete ERP system. So
Wow. That's pretty incredible. That's a lot of work.
yeah, I mean, it was. I did have another assistant programmer who helped me with some stuff, and then we had somebody build out the financial package because that's not my specialty. But I built an ERP system that did full MRP, cycle counting, physical inventory, production control. We had an HR system even, and purchasing,
Wow.
sales order entry, the whole thing, all integrated. But
Sounds like an
Y2K,
undertaking.
yeah, but Y2K kind of bit me because in 1983 we weren't really thinking about date problems. And it didn't work. My date formatting in the old system did not work and was not Y2K compliant. So we searched for a new software package and found this cool package that was at the time it wasn't Epicor because Epicor didn't exist yet in '97, but we bought something from DataWorks. And then a year later, that became an Epicor product. But we bought it in November of '97, went live in July of '98, and then I went to an Insights at Caesar's Palace. It wasn't called Insights either. It was called Dual Data
Perspectives
DataWorks
or something?
User Alliance. No, before that.
Oh, that's even before Perspectives.
It was called the DataWorks User Alliance meeting, and Dual. And so I went there, and I ended up getting interviewed and became a senior tech support analyst and worked there for 6 years, and then moved into consulting. And I spent 16 years plus actually implementing Vantage and then ERP and Kinetic. So now I'm in product management.
Tim, you've worn a lot of hats at Epicor. I mean, I think I met you when you were doing a lot of configuration consulting and MRP, and even at Insights this year, your presentations ran the full spectrum of all things Epicor. I was in an automation studio session with you, and then I think I went into one for MRP, and it was a great MRP presentation, by the way. I really appreciated that too. Gave me some good tips on how to present that to others as well. So thank you for that.
I enjoy MRP. It's one of my hot fun ones that I like to demonstrate, show off, and just the little tricks that you can do. And a lot of times it's just learning how to figure out what the tricks are. You know, how to test and how to go do a trial against MRP and see what happens. People don't even realize. Well, just try it. Change the number. Run MRP again. See what happens.
Yeah, we were just fighting with MRP a little while ago too, so MRP is fun.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I've never met someone so passionate about MRP as you, and the presentation you delivered was wonderful. Thank you again for that. It was great.
And I've been accused of being passionate before. I had a customer once that said, "You're so passionate about things." Like, well, I want you to do it right. So
there you go.
That's great.
Exactly.
We appreciate that.
So with your many hats, how are you adapting to your new role? This has got to be a little bit of a shock to the system there. You've been doing consulting for like 18 years, and now a product owner, a product manager.
Yeah. So one of the things that happen, when you're a consultant in the field, your world is being billable. I mean, they want to be utilized, and you want to be billable. You want to make sure that you're always in use by what the customers need, and it's not about doing anything except for that's what our job is to, there's a project, we need to go in, get the project done, move on to the next project, and all of a sudden I'm no longer in this thing where I have to keep track of my time and keep track of how many hours I spend on this one customer or this one thing, or turning in all my expense reports for billing. Now all of a sudden I'm in this new world where I have a little bit more freedom to do some experiments. In fact, that's my job, is to learn about how something works and see how I can make it better and plan for better, and talk to customers like yourself and say, hey, what do you need? How do you want it to work? And that's a completely different role. And it's been a fun experience, a fun ride, because I never had a problem trying to figure out what I needed to focus on when I was a consultant, because I was pretty much told, Tim, this is what we want you to work on today. But as a product manager, I have to spend more time thinking about, what am I going to focus on today? What is the thing I need to do and focus on to make the product better, to plan out new products. There's literally dozens and dozens of things that I could choose to do tomorrow, and I have to choose the right one.
So we can ask you for stuff, is what you're saying.
Well, sure, you can ask me. I'm not going to give it to you, but you can ask me all day long. But I've been chasing down a project to find out, is this a viable thing for us to do with Automation Studio? And so that takes time. And I've had 3 meetings with people on this particular subtopic, and each one of those, and plus my own personal time to investigate it, build out recipes, see how it works, see what's missing, and then just decide and talk to other leadership at Epicor, is this the right thing for us to do? So there's a lot of negotiations that I never had to negotiate for anything as a consultant. It was, again, hey, what does the customer want? Oh, they want a BPM. Here, let me write the BPM. You want a product configurator? Okay. You want me to teach you about MRP? Okay, I'll teach you about MRP. There's not a whole lot of time to spend to do your own learning and investigation.
So Tim, can you tell us a little bit about how Automation Studio came about and what was the goal of the product? And do you guys think that you succeeded at accomplishing that goal?
So I was not even in product management yet when the seeds were planted initially about Automation Studio. It was kind of as I understand it, it was a project that was put together by the labs team. We have a team run by Stephen Edgington that they do investigations about how what should be done next. And so they're sitting there playing in their playground and checking out various new things. They started looking for a new tool to do automations, to do integrations, because we haven't really had that great story for how that should be done. And so they did this, started really chewing in it a lot. And then after 6 or 8 months, there was a big presentation about here's what the problem is, here's what all the missing pieces are, the gaps, and what we can do to fill that gap. And that's about when I got involved. And I remember Stephen Edgington saying, yeah, have we chosen a product manager for this yet? And I heard that and I'm going, oh, that's interesting. We haven't chosen a product manager for it yet. And somebody else said, no, we still got to look for that person. And then a week later, somebody else said the same thing. And hey, have we found a product manager yet? And then that's when I put my hand up. I said, hello, I might like to do that one. And about a week later, I was the product manager for it. So I got to jump in and started learning what it was about, really. That was when I first got involved. But we hadn't even really, we hadn't totally chosen Workato as our partner yet. But that's what we finally did. We had to go through negotiations and all that. So that was about October timeframe when I jumped into it. And it's pretty much been a wild ride since then, with every day a new thing.
So that was like last October till now, and the product is live. That's pretty quick turnaround too.
Yeah, well, that
impressive.
talks, and that's because this wasn't definitely was not a Tim Shoemaker thing. This was the labs team really had done their homework. They chose Workato because it was a good platform, and they chose. And they built out the connectors for Prophet 21 and Kinetic and Propello. They built out some preliminary ones, although those aren't finished yet. And that's what made it work, because Workato already works. We didn't have to build the platform. We had to just build the connector into the platform. And since we know our products, we were able to take our products. We have our APIs. We had to build a connector. Once we have the connector, it's done. Because Open API allows you to build a kind of a self-building connector. We just have to tell the connector how to go get the data out of our APIs. And so,
yeah, and that's the beauty of having a mature platform to work with, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So as far as it becoming a product, it moved so fast that we were testing it. I got involved in October, and we were testing it in Kinetic in December. I mean, I say we. I was. I know that development was before that, but I started doing it in December, January. Started building out some recipes, and it was no problem found until one day all of a sudden we found an error in one of our APIs. And that wasn't an Automation Studio problem. That was an API problem that existed before. So, but it exposed a couple of those types of things. So we were able to fix that API before we released this.
So Tim, this is a pretty exciting product that we're all really happy to see. as someone who doesn't code myself, and I like to leverage, these codeless tools, I was super excited when I saw this, right? And the teaser trailers you put up on the forum were, leaving us all in great suspense. And we were all super excited when we got to see it at the conference. Have you guys had any early, and it's very early in the release, have you seen any customer success stories, or is anybody starting to build things and working with you on any projects? I know that we are looking to purchase the software, the application, and the module ourselves at Stephen Gould. Have you worked with any customers to start getting any automations going?
Well, we haven't yet because it is so new. I would say our best success story was Insights. The fact that we came to Insights with no live customers, and yet we were able to jump through all sorts of hoops, get everything done, everything put in place, all buttoned up, and we had 5 labs that had, I think it was 450 people attended the labs. Now, right there, that was incredible, nice number to say, wow, we had 450 people. That was, between 15 and 20% of the attendees at Insights went to our labs. So that was a great number there. Then when we actually looked at the results of the labs, we could tell that we had over 200 people successfully completed the labs. Now, a lot of people come into the labs and they just kind of sit there and watch. So those immediately, they never finish. But and then there's those people that just don't complete the lab. They get partway into it and get stuck and they don't raise their hand. But we had 200 people successfully complete it. I think that's a tremendous success story in and of itself, because this is a brand new platform for everybody that was in the room. Nobody in the room had ever seen it before, and yet they came in, they followed our script, and they successfully completed the lab. They sent an email to themselves, which was the result of the lab. They extracted data from Kinetic. That was the success story, and the fact that we were able to build out demo scripts that we had in the experience zone, and that was a lot of fun. It was a blast. So.
Yeah,
that's great.
No, it was. I definitely did the lab, and I know that some of the other colleagues that went with me did too, and it was like I said, I was blown away. It was pretty impressive. And speaking of which, do you think you can give us a little demo or a little something? Show us a little something about what this tool can do. There's a lot of folks that that didn't go to Insights that probably haven't really gotten to see this. So
I'll first start out in a part screen. So this is the Kinetic part screen. This is the same Kinetic part screen that we had at Insights in the experience zone. It has been customized with a button on it. This button executes a BPM. But we're not going to, or a function, but we're not going to use that one for this demo unless you plead with me to do it. I'm just going to show you what can be done. So this, just to prove that I don't have it, I'm not doing any magic strings here. I'm going to come down to word porting and show you that there's no comments in the manufacturing section here. I'll even do a refresh here just so you can see there's nothing here. So I'm just gonna demonstrate what I did my very first time when I built out a recipe. This was recipe number 1 for me when I got Automation Studio. And I forgot to show you inside of Kinetic. You look at your menu, and inside of menu, inside the system management, you'll find Automation Studio. This will not work unless you buy it. So it'll be here, but it won't work. But you go into that, and once you do that, you come up and it'll bring you into Automation Studio. And you can see it still looks like we are in Kinetic. In fact, there's the home button and there's the help button, and you can go into the help and you can read about Automation Studio inside there if you've got this version of Epicor.
So this is basically Workato embedded into Epicor, is that correct?
Correct. So everything you're seeing here is an iframe. From about here on down. Gotcha. This is all an iframe. And everything inside of here is the Workato UI. But we also are allowed to move things around. So if you go and get a demo of Workato, you'll find that this menu over here, which is where we put things in Epicor, and Workato is over here on the side. So we moved things around and made it so that it looks better. We can turn on and off features and things. But you can see that this is a graph. This is showing me how many recipes I have, how many successful, how many failed jobs. Failed jobs are because we were doing experiments. And it shows some statistics on what's going on in your instance of Automation Studio. And there's also things like dependency graphs that you can go and click on recipes and see which recipes, which apps use which recipes. There's some amazing tools that they've got built into this tool. I'm going to go into recipes. I'm just going to go create a brand new recipe. So to do that, I come into the recipes folder, and I'm going to go into my EpiUsers demo section. Now I can create a folder, a subfolder into this project if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go create a recipe. And it says, what is my recipe? Well, I'm going to do my first part. Text file. And this was literally what I did the very first time. Start building, which then says, well, which app do you want to trigger from? Well, these are my connected apps, but then there's all the other ones that I don't have connected yet, which would be down in this section here, and there's the thousands of apps that are down there. I'm just going to choose Kinetic. And then it says, oh, well, what do I want to monitor? I want to look for newer updated records. And then this is where if I had multiple connections, like my pilot, my live, then this is where I would choose which one I want to do this in. And now it's saying, well, what kind of record do I want to monitor? And I'm going to choose the part table is what I'm monitoring. The fields, when I click here, this gives me a list of all the fields, including my user-defined fields that I have on my system. But I'm just going to choose that I want the company, the part number, and the part description. And I click OK. So I've done step one. That's as hard as it gets. Then I go to actions. And I said, well, what do I want to do? Well, my first recipe, I just said, well, I'm not going to try to go anywhere else with this. I'm just going to go update that part with some other information. So I'm going to choose that. This would be a simple BPM replacement, although this is not the most efficient way of doing something, but it was just, hey, can I do this? I select the record type part. I can, instead of it defaulting to Epicor 6, I can say, no, I want to enter the company number. And now this is the first time you get to see something called data pills. And I'm going to use the data pill that came out of step one.
Okay, so it automatically shows you the stuff that you've already selected. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I come into the part number. Well, which part number what do I want to put in the part number? Well, it found this part number I used in step one. Yeah, go ahead and use that. So now what else do I want to do? Well, I want to go and update this part. I want to go update the comment field. So I choose this 1,179 extra fields, and I have to say, well, which field do I want? I want that comment field. I don't remember what it's called, but oh, there it is. It's the manufacturing comment. Now,
gotcha.
I'll tell you, in a BPM, that would have been tough to find. But here it's really easy. Okay, this outside tool is actually easier to use than within. So then what do I want to update the comment with? Well, I could do all sorts of things. I could say, and this is where I get passionate about this, because my first time creating this, I started going, okay, well, I want to do something like, I want to add two things together. So I'm going to put, I thought, that means I have to go into a formula mode if I want to put two things together. So I'm going to come in here and put in quotes, last time. And then I'm going to have to do an ampersand. I was doing it the hard way. Okay. And then I asked the question, isn't there an easier way to do this? And they said, well, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you just use it this way? And so you just do last time edited, and then colon, and then you choose a data pill. And there happens to be a data pill for when the recipe ran.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I didn't have to do any formulas to do this. You just jam stuff together. And then when you're done, you press save. And then we do a test. And when we do the test, it's going to try, and it's not going to find anything because there is nothing to trigger it yet. So basically, it's running there looking for new parts to be edited. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to change this part.
So how is it monitoring those parts? Is it doing CDC?
No, it uses the RevRow, the sysrev field. And so when I started the recipe, it went and found out the highest rev, and that's an integer field, and it says, oh, here's the last time it was run. I will look for records that have a higher rev than this. So now,
That's pretty
so
efficient.
I'm just going to just modify this record, and I'm going to press save. I just took the period off the end of the sentence. And now when I come back here, since I'm still in test mode, I can just say, hey, go ahead, check it again. And it's going to check it again. So we have success. So it happened. And so now I should be able to come in here and press refresh. And once I refresh it, we will be able to come back down into this reporting, and we will see that there is a timestamp in that field. Oh, look, there's that message that came in from Automation Studio. So that's basically what it does and how it works.
All right, so that was very easy. I mean, that's pretty interesting. So you can actually use it. You mentioned, kind of like a BPM replacement. I mean, obviously, BPMs are not going anywhere, but it is nice
Yeah,
that you can use it not just for external connections, but you can use it as an internal tool to do
correct.
internal transactions.
So I wanted to show you this cool recipe that we did. We did this at Insights. We were able to monitor Twitter for any Twitter feeds and then automatically update a UD table with it. So this recipe itself is really simple. It says search for any mentions in Twitter for the word Epicor Insights. And if we find it, then we create a UD record in Kinetic. So if we look at this recipe, we'll say, we found that data, and we're going to take that Twitter data and push it into UDO1. So this was very simple. Now, I'm not going to really demonstrate this feature. I'm going to demonstrate how easy it is to debug this. So here you can see every time this was run, and you can click on any one of these that happened in the past. So this happened on the 24th. And so on the 24th, we can look at this and see that here was the Twitter mention. And inside of this, we can see what the output was. Here's all the data that came back from Twitter. And then we look to see if that has been put in. We created a task in Twitter. Oh, that's another thing we did. We created a task in Kinetic to do something with this. And then we also created the record in UDO1. And so this shows how you can do multiple things that's triggered by something outside of Epicor, which you can't do in a BPM.
Right.
And you can't do that with Service Connect. And you can't, I mean, there's all sorts of things you can't do. But this is monitoring Twitter and then saying, oh, now that that happened, let's go do something in Kinetic to add a task, update UDO1, we could update a part, we could do all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, if I come back into Kinetic, what that did, we also had a Twitter feed showing inside of Kinetic that showed all the Twitter feeds coming out of, and these are everything that's inside of UDO1.
That's pretty cool. So you can see basically almost a real-time feed of Twitter things coming through as
Yeah.
Automation Studio processed it. That's
So if
pretty
you
cool.
think about what this is, this Twitter feed doesn't have to be, obviously doesn't have to be Twitter feed. This could be a Salesforce. This could be, if you have Shopify and you have sales orders coming in through Shopify, whatever it is you have,
Right.
that causes an event to happen, and then you can do things with that. Create sales orders, create purchase orders, create whatever it is you want to do. You basically build out a recipe to do that. And you can see this is the recipe. It does two different things. It's creating a task and creating a UDO1 record.
So I mean, what's so powerful about that is that it almost allows you to have hooks into Epicor, which we've always been clamoring for, the ability to
Right.
push something in or to have a hook in to Epicor. That's pretty incredible that you can do that so easily. And I think you mentioned also at Insights that even recipes themselves can become API endpoints. Is that correct?
Correct. So when you create a recipe, the first thing that happens when you ask it to create a recipe, it asks you, what is the trigger? The trigger is, what I just demonstrated earlier was triggered from an app. And that was the same way with that Twitter one. It's triggered from an app. Basically, this is monitoring the application for a change or something happening. But we can also say to run this on a schedule. It says, hey, every 24 hours, go and get this information and populate data. Or we can make it trigger from a webhook, which says, hey, I'm going to create a webhook, and every time that webhook is triggered, run this recipe. And that webhook can have input data and output data. So it has parameters. And the same thing with an API. You can click build an API. It asks you what is the name of the API endpoint. It asks you what your input and output parameters are, all the different things to make it into a fully fledged API. And then you can call that API from anywhere. Call it from Salesforce, call it from Epicor, call it from some other tool, and then that API can then do things. So you could feed the API a part number and description and have it automatically add that part into Kinetic and add the part into Salesforce at the same time with one incoming call.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. That's really, really powerful.
Amazing.
Thanks for the demo, Tim. I know it seems like everything was so simple, but the power of the tool is pretty impressive.
Yes, and then there's also this build a recipe function, which is one of the other main ones here. Is you can build a function that is then callable by all of your recipes. So if you have a standard thing that you do all the time within recipes, you don't want to duplicate the code. You just create one code block. It's its own function, and then your multiple recipes can say, "Oh, if this happens, call that recipe." So there's just the power is amazing. It's a fun tool. It's really fun to work with. So.
It is. That looks pretty amazing. I cannot wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. Yeah, we're building a few integrations with some external systems now as we go through our implementation, and this is just a game changer for us. It makes it look like a lot of this is going to be so much easier for us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for the demo. So it's a pretty powerful product. So how does a product like that come to fruition? How does that process kind of start?
Well, first of all, we decided we were going to do it, and then it was a lot of. When I got involved with it, we said, "Well, hey, we got to do negotiations. What features are we going to ask for from Mercado?" There was a lot of. I had to learn a lot too. So, negotiating a new partner is an interesting process. We had to set the price. We had to set what we were going to sell. So there was all those types of things. What features are going to be involved? And it's just a lot of work. There's dozens, can be hundreds of people involved in calls. I had one call where we had a couple hundred people on it internally at Epicor just to get something going, because this is a cross-platform product. We're implementing Automation Studio. Right now, we've got it live on 2 products, but our roadmap is right now with 10 products by the end of next year. This is a forward-going statement. Sorry, the safe harbor here, but we're working on all these different products, and so there's a product manager for every one of those products, and there's a product marketing person for every one of those products. There's sales teams for every one of them, and SEs, and so by the time you get everybody that's interested in knowing, what is the roadmap for this? It's not one roadmap. There's lots of roadmaps and lots of schedules, and so it was a matter of getting to know a lot of new people. It's just amazing how many people are involved.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we have thousands of employees at Epicor, because every one of these products that we have, with Profit 21, Propello, Kinetic, BizTrack, Automotive, and then CPQ is going to be involved, and ECM, and all these different things are going to have Automation Studio embedded into them. And those roadmaps all have to be defined and work with all the product managers to get the embedding work right. And so it's just been a whirlwind of activity. So.
Sounds like a lot of work, Tim. we're excited to see the results of that and get our hands on it. I have a follow-up question to Jose's, more about the innovation and how Epicor develops new products in general. You mentioned Stephen Edgington and a labs group, and you don't have to give us any insight into things that they're working on there, but we're always curious about some of those next things that Epicor is going to be working on, and excited to see those. And this is a great example of those. What's their process, and how do they go out there and try to look for those needs of the customers versus things that they come up with as, hey, this would be something cool if we could build in Epicor, and how do they vet those ideas out?
Well, there's several ways. First of all, I know that someday you guys would like to have Stephen Edgington, and I think he'd love to be involved in another future session, and that would be a great question to ask him directly. Is what makes you decide what the labs team is going to work on? Because they do some innovative things, and they're always trying out new stuff. But I do know that we have regular annual meetings with our customer advisory board. We talk to the customer advisory board of all of our products, saying, hey, what is your newest big thing that you want to have in the product? So that is one level. The other level, of course, not everybody's on the customer advisory board. But we do have the concept of the Epicor Ideas portal, which you can go in and you can submit an idea and vote on ideas. And those ideas, it's not a black hole. There's some people that have sort of asked, hey, why did things sit there for so long? We haven't had it for that long, to be honest. We've only been really using it for a little while, but we do look at them every time new ideas come in. We have a review process on a weekly basis just to look at the new ideas that have come in, merge those ideas into old ideas that already existed, those types of things. And then sometimes we reject the ideas immediately. Like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. That's not a valid idea. I hate it when that happens because it always seems like something should be a valid idea. But then there's some of the ideas come through as like, well, we already did that. That feature exists. You just need to use the feature. But then there's those other ideas that, yeah, that looks like a good idea. I don't know if that's going to get in the next release or the next two releases, but we need to consider it. But we need to hear if the customers want it. Customer hold is one good thing. There was I think it was customer hold, that there was some sort of an inactive customer or something like that we wanted. Some people said that they wanted to have added, and it was like we didn't have a way of doing that at the time, and so we've added that feature. And those types of things we do take those seriously. Right now, there's an idea out there that has over 100 votes on making it so that you can run a BAQ inside of a BAQ. In other words, make it kind of like a subroutine. We're taking that serious. We've talked about it. I talked about it like a week and a half ago with development. But right now, our big push is making it so you can write BAQs in Kinetic with the new UI. But that's what our current energy is being expended on, is on kineticizing with the new UI the whole BAQ creation process.
I need to go cast my vote for that BAQ within a BAQ. You're going to have 101 votes on that one soon.
Well, I think I created that idea, but I think that was my idea, or it was something that I had said early on. Somebody else might have created it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something I've always wanted, and now I know why I always follow you around, Tim. You have all these great ideas.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've played with the Kinetic BAQ preview. It works well so far. So I'm hoping you guys can get some few nuggets in there for us, little tiny new features or something, just to kind of kick it the extra mile. But it looks pretty good. And thank you so much for letting us know how the ideas process works, because sometimes from this side of the wall, it feels like we put ideas out there and they just go into the ether, and so it's good to know that you guys are reviewing them and you guys are taking them serious, because we do hear a lot of feedback from the community about that. It's like, I put ideas in and it just says future consideration forever, but we know that you can't give everybody their answers all the time. So
that's probably something we could improve on. Not making any promises here, but we could definitely improve on the concept of once we've decided that we're going to have it in the next release, it's not just future consideration. It's we're working on it.
Yeah.
But we don't have a we're working on it status. So it's like it stays in future consideration until the day after the release comes out, and then all of a sudden it's shipped.
Gotcha.
And so we leave it in that status, and maybe that's something that, because I remember looking at some ideas and going, well, but that's in the product that's going to be released in 3 months. Yeah, but it's not shipped yet, so you can't do anything. So
right.
That's something we could possibly, maybe you put in an idea that we change our ideas.
Yeah, so maybe we can put a whip.
Change the status.
We can put a work in process category or something so that we know, so that we know you guys are working on it and we don't bug you about it anymore.
Well, I think that process, Tim, that process has evolved quite a bit over the last few years, where it used to be a support request that went in as a certain flag on it. I know on EpiUsers we had an ideas section on there that we've since taken down and directed everyone to the Epicor Ideas portal. And so the evolution of that process has grown tremendously, and the more you guys do to that, the better it gets for all of us. So we appreciate it.
We actually have a couple of initiatives in-house to improve how we're using the Epicor Ideas portal. Right now it is owned by product management, and product management, we want to use it better for some ideas. And in fact, for Automation Studio, my hope is, again, this is future, I haven't done it yet, but my hope is to create my own Epicor Ideas page just for Automation Studio. And so that you can come in and give future ideas for recipes that we may want to build out and have into our customer share, our community share. That's something else that we're a future piece is we're going to have a community share point within Automation Studio where you'll be able to go and download community recipes, and we're going to have a bunch of samples in there. Right now, we don't have any samples other than a few things that we have promised we're going to put in there from Insights. But in the future, we're hoping to have complete Salesforce integration that'll be a shared integration. You'll be able to go download it, customize it to your needs, and start using it. And we're doing the same thing with ADP. It's going to be a recipe set for doing ADP integration.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. Sorry about the technical glitches. We'll work that on post, and if we need you, we may need you to come back and do a little bit of a re-demo on that if we can get it figured out on post. But I think we'll be okay.
All right. Well, hopefully we won't have any. You'll be able to figure that out and get it up.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Tim. We really appreciate
Tim,
you.
one last question. So if anyone's interested in Automation Studio, they should reach out to their CAM, schedule a demo, and get some pricing?
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah, they can reach out to their CAM. The CAM knows what the prices are, and they can talk. And if they need a demo, our demo team is fully engaged now. They can demonstrate Automation Studio, how it works, maybe get a little bit more specific on what the customer's needs are. And they've got a whole bunch of samples that they can show.
That's great.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks again, Tim. Thanks for being a contributing member of the EpiUsers community, and thanks for spending some time with us today. Appreciate it.
So that was pretty cool. We got an actual Epicor senior product owner for our first guest, and to them a pretty cool product too. That's pretty exciting. So we really appreciate Tim taking the time. I know he's pretty busy, but I know he was excited to show off his product to everybody who maybe hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, it was awesome. His demos and insights were great. This demo was great. It's always great to talk about anything with Tim because he knows so much about Epicor. He's worked with so many of the different products and different modules, and like I mentioned to him, his MRP sessions and configurator, and talking to him over the past, and he's a big contributor on the forum, and he's super helpful for the community. So it's great to have him on the show.
Yeah, for sure. So it was a really nice demo and a really nice nice chat with him. And he spoiled that, we have talked to Stephen Edgington on coming on the podcast, and he said that he's on board. So we'll try to schedule some time with Stephen. I know everybody's going to be really excited to hear from him. I know I always look forward to having conversations with Stephen. He's always a forward thinker. He's got great ideas, so it's always very interesting to talk to him. So we have quite a few people that have reached out that would like to participate. We have a couple of partners we're going to bring in over the next few episodes too, to talk about change management. We have John from Success coming along, so it's gonna be pretty cool. It's awesome that we had Tim as our first guest, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. But anyway, so yeah, pretty exciting stuff.
That's great. This is fun. I'm enjoying this, Jose. I don't know if anybody's watching it, but it's been fun.
It is, isn't it? Just getting, one-on-one time with these guys who have, like you said, a ton of knowledge, and it's just nice to be able to talk. And Tim mentioned, the process for the Epicor ideas, right? That was something that we've always been curious about. How does that work? And why are our ideas now going into this portal and not going anywhere else? And it turns out that, they look at them all the time. So we expected that, right? But it's nice to hear from the mouth of somebody who's involved in that process every day. So they look at them and they make decisions based on those ideas, and that's really important. So keep putting those ideas out there because they are looking at them, and I am hoping that he's going to sneak that one in that he mentioned about the calling a BAQ from inside a BAQ.
I'm gonna hold him to
That's
it.
been one. Yeah, that's been one that we have been clamoring for several years now. Though I gotta tell you, a few weeks ago, I started playing with a couple of tweaks to BAQs myself because I was writing this very complex report, and I started trying to clone my own subqueries and things like that, and it is a complex process. So I can see why Epicor has hesitated or taken a little while to get that feature because it's a lot more complex than it should be, or that it seems like it should be.
I know, and you sent me a screenshot of the kineticized BAQ screen. What was the first question I asked?
Yep. Yes, that's exactly. Can I call BAQs from BAQs? And I said, no, you can't. But anyway, so hopefully, we don't know anything, and Tim definitely didn't make any promises. But it is nice to know that they're looking at those things, and I know everybody will be interested in hearing that. So, anyways, I think we've consumed all the time in the world today, and we talked to Tim for quite a while, so we don't want to drag this on anymore. So, anyways, until next time, I think that's a wrap.
All right.
See
Thanks,
you, buddy.
Jose. This was fun. Appreciate it.
All right.
We're on the mission, we should